Imagine sitting in a crowded hall where the whispers of the audience are louder than the sound of your own heart. A place where humiliation can be manufactured in seconds and dignity stolen in front of hundreds of eyes, and then picture a woman, standing there being forced to the center of attention, stripped of not just her clothes but her very sense of safety. When suddenly, out of nowhere, the crowd gasps as a man in uniform steps forward, a Navy SEAL with eyes that see more than anyone else. And when his gaze lands on the tattoo revealed on her back, he utters words that silence the chaos. That tattoo. It's unbelievable. Before I take you deep into this powerful story of betrayal, courage, and shocking revelations, if you're watching this, don't scroll, don't skip. Hit that subscribe button right now, because what unfolds here will leave you breathless. And you won't want to miss the twists that are about to hit harder than anything you've ever heard. The story begins in a wealthy coastal town where appearances mattered more than truth, and the social elite gathered for charity galas, not out of compassion, but out of competition to prove who had more status, more influence, and more control. Among them was Isabella, a woman whose quiet beauty and unshakable resolve had always drawn attention, but whose past remained a mystery even to those closest to her. She had worked as an assistant for a powerful family, the Caldwells, who ruled the town's politics and businesses with iron hands covered in velvet gloves, and though she moved silently through their world, she carried secrets like shadows that clung to her skin. On the night of the Caldwell Foundation's annual gala, the ballroom glittered with chandeliers and the clinking of champagne glasses, but beneath the surface, tension crackled, because rumors had been swirling about Isabella, whispers that she wasn't who she claimed to be, whispers planted by those jealous of her quiet rise and influence. It was during the height of the evening, with cameras flashing and reporters circling like vultures, that an orchestrated humiliation unfolded. Isabella was suddenly pulled into the spotlight by the very people she had served, accused of deception, her voice drowned out by the jeers of the crowd. The accusations escalated, and in the madness someone grabbed at her dress, tearing it away as gasps filled the room, and laughter followed from those who wanted her destroyed. Standing there, stripped bare in front of powerful eyes and cruel smirks, Isabella's body was revealed, but so too was something no one expected. A tattoo stretching across her back, intricate, old, carrying symbols that no ordinary woman would have, symbols that screamed of military precision, brotherhood, and sacrifice. The room froze as if time itself had been shattered, and from the far side of the hall a tall figure in dress blues stepped forward, his presence cutting through the noise. He was Commander Daniel Reese, a decorated Navy SEAL who had arrived as a guest but now became the only person in the room that mattered, his voice sharp yet stunned as he said, "That tattoo, it's unbelievable." Because he knew what it meant. He knew it wasn't decoration, but a mark carried only by someone who had survived one of the SEAL's most classified operations, an operation that had been lost to history and erased from records, except for those who had bled through it. Suddenly, Isabella was no longer a humiliated assistant. She was a mystery tied to the deepest layers of military secrecy, and Reese's eyes told the crowd that the night had changed forever. The silence that followed Commander Reese's words was unlike anything the Caldwell ballroom had ever known. The kind of silence where even the chandeliers seemed to stop shimmering as if the air itself refused to move, and in that stillness all eyes turned from Isabella's exposed figure to the tall man who had spoken with such certainty, a man whose medals gleamed under the soft lights, but whose reputation as a SEAL carried weight heavier than gold. The Caldwells, who had orchestrated her humiliation, suddenly found their confident smirks faltering because Reese's reaction was not the reaction of someone witnessing a scandal. It was the reaction of someone recognizing a truth far greater than gossip, and that truth was written in the tattoo inked across Isabella's back. Reese walked forward, his boots striking the marble floor with authority, and as he approached Isabella, she tried to steady her breathing, her mind racing between fear and relief, because though she had lived for years trying to bury the past, that tattoo represented, she now realized there was no hiding it anymore, not with him standing there. "Where did you get this?" Reese asked, his voice low but cutting through the hall, and the crowd leaned in, though many had no idea what the symbols meant, yet they felt the gravity in his tone. Isabella's lips trembled as she struggled to form words, knowing that every syllable could ignite consequences she wasn't ready to face. And in that hesitation, Reese's gaze softened just enough for her to see recognition. Not of her face, but of the ordeal she must have endured to carry that mark. "This isn't a joke," he told the crowd, turning to face them. "This tattoo belongs to a unit that never made it home." Gasps rippled through the room, and suddenly the charity gala turned into a courtroom, every guest now a witness to a revelation they could neither comprehend nor dismiss. The Caldwells tried to laugh it off, insisting that Isabella must have faked it, that tattoos could be copied, but Reese's glare silenced them. He knew the difference between ink and authenticity because he had been there. He had bled with brothers whose bodies were never recovered. Isabella finally found her voice, trembling but strong, and said, "I didn't want anyone to know. I didn't want to be dragged back into it." Her words confused the crowd even more, raising questions none of them were prepared to ask. Reese looked into her eyes, searching for the truth he already suspected, and then it hit him with the force of a storm. Isabella wasn't just a survivor. She was the missing link in a mission classified at the highest levels, one that even he thought had been buried forever. The humiliation that had been staged for her had backfired spectacularly, because in stripping her bare, the Caldwells had revealed not weakness, but a secret powerful enough to unravel their own empire, and Reese knew from that moment on that Isabella's life, and his, would never be the same. The days that followed the gala turned into a storm Isabella could no longer escape, because what had been exposed that night was not just her tattoo, but the truth of who she was and what she carried. And soon whispers turned into questions. Questions turned into threats, and the Caldwell family, desperate to protect their empire, began moving in shadows to silence her. Reese stayed close, torn between his duty as a SEAL and the instinct that told him Isabella's secret was bigger than both of them. And when she finally confessed to him in a hushed voice that she had been part of a covert extraction mission, years ago, one that went horribly wrong and left her branded forever by that tattoo, he understood why she had hidden for so long. But before they could decide what to do with the truth, the first warning came. A break-in at Isabella's small apartment. Nothing stolen except a single photograph from her past. And Reese knew instantly that they were being hunted by someone who knew exactly what the tattoo meant and wanted it erased. The humiliation at the gala had been only the beginning. Now a game of survival had begun, and Isabella and Reese were at the center of it. The confrontation came faster than either of them expected, when Reese traced the break-in back to a Caldwell, safe house hidden on the edge of town, and together he and Isabella walked straight into the lion's den, knowing it was the only way to end it. Inside, they found not only the family's enforcers waiting, but also files, documents, and photographs proving the Caldwells had been profiting from classified operations for years, using Isabella's past as leverage in their schemes. When they tried to force her into silence, Reese stepped forward with the calm fury of a man who had seen war, and the room erupted in chaos, fists, gunmetal, and shouts crashing together until the Caldwells realized they had underestimated both of them. In the end, Isabella stood over their empire's secrets now laid bare, no longer the humiliated assistant, but a survivor whose truth had destroyed their power. And as the authorities closed in, Reese looked at her with a half-smile, saying quietly, so only she could hear, "That tattoo didn't just mark your past, it saved your future." The world would never know the full story. But for Isabella, the weight of shame had been replaced with strength, and for Reese, the mission was finally complete.